Faith isn't fiction. Freedom isn't free. Getting too comfortable brought on this mess. This is Freedom Forever Forward. Let's get uncomfortable. There's a subtle shift that's happening in American Christianity today. And if we're being honest, it's not that subtle anymore. More and more churches, leaders, and believers are allowing the language of modern politics, especially progressive politics, to shape not just our conversations, but our convictions as well. And that raises a very important question, a very serious one. Are we forming our political views from Scripture, or are we reshaping Scripture to fit our political views? Because there's a fine line between both, and that distinction really matters a lot. For the sake of clarity and transparency, let me point something out. Christians are not called to blind partisanship. Oh, no. The Holy Scriptures are not campaign manuals. Oh, no, they're not. The Bible and its principles, its teachings, do not belong to any one political party. They were revealed by God for all of humanity to provide moral clarity. Scripture speaks to human dignity. It speaks to justice. It speaks to truth. It speaks to accountability. And when we ignore those principles or selectively apply them, we don't become more compassionate, but we become inconsistent. Scripture warns us about this kind of drift. As a matter of fact, in a letter to the Romans, the Apostle Paul taught the following, and this comes from Romans chapter 12, verse 2. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's Romans 12, verse 2. That's a direct challenge. Don't conform. Don't blend in. Don't let the culture dictate your convictions. But that's exactly what's happening in many spaces today. Instead of evaluating political ideas through a biblical lens, we're watching people reinterpret biblical teachings through a political lens. That's not transformation. That's accommodation. Now, here's where this gets uncomfortable. This is where it gets sticky and tricky. This is about voters. It's about all of us. Because it's not just about the church leaders, okay? It's easy to say that we believe in biblical truth until that truth conflicts with a policy we like, a candidate we support, or a cultural movement we don't want to challenge. Then suddenly we start making exceptions. We start saying things like, well, that's not what it really means, or, hey, times have changed. We need to adapt the Scripture to this and that reality. We have to be more compassionate. We get to hear that a lot lately. You know what I'm talking about? And listen, compassion matters, but real compassion is grounded in truth, not trends, not popularity, not whatever ideology is gaining traction at the moment. Because trends, trust me, they're like fashion styles and hairdos. They change all the time. Truth does not at all. And if our convictions change every time the culture shifts, then they're not really convictions. They're preferences. Now let's talk about responsibility. Church leaders, I want to talk to you for a moment. You have a responsibility to teach the full counsel of the Scriptures, not just the parts that are comfortable, not just the parts that align with cultural expectations. Because when you as leaders soften truth to avoid tension or conflict, you're not protecting your congregations at all. In fact, you're leaving them unprepared and defenseless. Unprepared and defenseless to think critically, unprepared and defenseless to engage the world, unprepared and defenseless to stand firm when it matters most. Oh, members, you're not off that hook that easy. You have a responsibility too. We all do. Because following Christ is not passive. It requires study. It requires discernment. It requires the willingness to ask the hard questions, not just to our leaders, but to ourselves as well, especially ourselves. Questions like this one. Do my political beliefs reflect my faith? Or does my faith reflect my political beliefs? That's not an easy question, but it's a necessary one. Because at the end of the day, voting is just not a civic action all by itself. I truly, honestly, wholeheartedly hope that for many viewers, many believers, voting is a moral decision. It's a reflection of what we believe about truth, justice, responsibility, and the role of government in our lives. And no political party gets it right every time. Absolutely not. Nope, not a single one. Which means Christians should never outsource our convictions to a party platform. What we need to do is we evaluate, we weigh, we discern. Then, through the lens of Scripture, we do any one of these activities, not through the lens of convenience, of course. Again, Paul reminds us in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 3, "For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lusts shall they heap to themselves teachers, having itching ears." Let me kind of translate that for you. What Paul is saying here, in other words, is that there will come a time, and that time is now, when people prefer messages that affirm them, buzzword nowadays, right, rather than truths that challenge them. Messages that feel good rather than the truths that call them to be higher and holier. And if we're not careful, we can fall into that pattern without even realizing it ourselves. So here's the challenge: not to be political for the sake of politics, but to be consistent, to be grounded, to be honest, to align our public decisions with our private convictions, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's unpopular, even when nobody is looking. Because faith that only exists inside a church building, but never shows up in how we think, vote, and especially how we live, isn't really shaping anything. And the goal isn't perfection, it's alignment. Because when belief, speech, and action line up, that's where integrity lives. And integrity is what gives faith its credibility. That's what I have for you today. I'm hopefully confident that you've seen some value in today's episode and today's message. Please hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up or like button, share the content of this episode with your pastor, your bishop, your priest, and especially your fellow churchgoer. That way, we can together move freedom forever forward. I'm your host, Brian Rios. That's all I have for today. Be well and be blessed. Let's move faith, freedom, and this nation forward. Now, if this challenges you, share it. If it changed you, subscribe.